So, welcome everybody to Australian Hypnosis Conference. Today I'm here with Connie, and Connie has become one of our veteran speakers in our conferences, and we absolutely freaking love having you there as well, especially with your book Shine through trauma. Like, I was so proud of you when you released that. And I even got a copy and I've read through it, and we'll talk about more about that in a moment. So Connie's going to be speaking. But before we go into that, I'd like to thank Fabian Wesselink for sponsoring us this year with Hypno Breathwork. So thank you so much, Fabian. So this year, Connie, you're talking about how to rewire the brain and stop solving adult problems with childlike resources. Ooh. Is this one going to be one of those burn topics that we all need to hear?
Well, it is because the funny thing is, as I am, kind of writing up the presentation and structuring it a little bit, I'm noticing some of my childlike behaviors that I'm still, they're still coming up sometimes. And
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
really it's getting me to think about, okay, where am I doing this?
Yep, yep. So what are some of these childlike things that you're discovering?
Well, for me, for example, one of the things that was always like, I used to go into this, someone doesn't reply to a message. Oh my God, what have I done? Have I said something wrong? I must have upset them. Like, and
Yes.
it's not happening as frequently, but I still catch myself sometimes out when I'm a bit insecure in some moments where I'm going back to this old, what have I done? Or I don't know, someone maybe gives me a short answer or is a bit cranky on that day. Obviously, it got nothing to do with me. But yeah, sometimes it sneaks in a little bit. I've worked on it a lot and it's very different now. And I can now obviously I'm aware of it. So I
Yes.
know when it's happening and then I can stop it and be like,
And
okay,
they're
well,
always
where's
going
that?
to creep in on some level, aren't they?
Of course, of course. And it's not taking over anymore. And it's not like I can now be like, okay, well, this what is really happening? Is that person really have I really done something wrong, or is it just me now making up a story in my head? And I don't live in those stories anymore, but I used to before I did
Mhm.
all of this work, to be honest.
And like you've just raised something for me as well. So I had a rough time about a week and a half ago, and I found myself just chucking everything to the wind. I was like, no, I'm not doing my fitness anymore. I'm not going to bother with this healthy eating bullshit. I literally went out and got KFC and an iced coffee, just like the old Trish would. And I was like, hang on, why? And then instantly my thoughts went, well, they don't care, so what do I care? Fast forward 24 hours, I was like, that's okay. You made a mistake, but you didn't live there
Mm.
and you can retrofit it. So let's move on. So that would be a childlike thinking as well,
For
wouldn't
sure,
it?
for sure. It's almost like that child, I'm gonna do what I want to do sort of thing, you know?
Yeah, crack the snatties, chuck a tanny sort of thing. So, yeah. So, when it comes to solving these adult problems with childlike resources, how do you approach people with that? Because that can be one of those topics where people are like, oh, well, I've always done this, or they're using it like a crutch. How do you approach that?
Well, and that's one of the key things. If someone comes to me and they have experienced trauma, they come with that and they're like, I've experienced this and this is what's showing up in my life right now. Because people don't come and say, heal me from trauma. They usually come and say, I'm insecure, I have no confidence, or whatever, or I'm attracting, I don't know, toxic partners.
Yeah, good
They
point.
are very clear on that. But then you have those people that come and they had this seemingly, let's call it a perfect childhood, okay? Because
Mhm.
people say, I haven't been abused, nothing bad has happened. It's a lot harder to explain to them, hey, some of the behaviors that you're showing, some of the sabotaging behaviors are, your childlike behaviors. Because they're going to
Mm.
be like, well, I had the most perfect childhood. And this is what I'm going to be talking in a presentation about. The last few years I talked a lot more about when someone has experienced trauma
Mhm,
and how
mhm.
to help them, how that shows up. And this time I'm going to be focusing more on examples of people that haven't experienced any trauma,
Lovely.
but they still play out those same patterns all their life.
Mhm.
And that's what I'm going to be focusing on about why is this happening and a bit of the brain science, a bit of how this shows up, and a bit of that. Why does it sometimes feel so hard to break out of it? Even we know we don't want to act like that. We know we don't want to do that. But it still sometimes feels like it's
Mm.
hard to break those patterns. And that's what I'm going to be talking a lot about in this presentation.
And based on your experience with those people that are finding it hard to break out of those patterns, Do you find that that's more of an expectation because Fluffy McGee down the road did it instantly and I can't?
Yes, it's that, and it's also I feel like a little bit of that mindset, or not that mindset, because what happens is, you know how when we say people feel like they've done it all their life,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
people
mm-hmm.
create almost like that it's their identity. It's
True.
part of who they are.
The
Now, I
DNA.
did that. Yes, I did that. Like for me, and the crazy thing is, that the environment reinforces that a lot. So I tell you my example.
Mm-hmm.
I had anxiety. And everyone was saying to me, "You're just someone that always worries. That's just who you are. You're just someone that always worries and that overthinks." Now, I know those people haven't said that in a bad way,
Yeah, they
but
say it
then
out
I
of
went to the
intent. Yeah.
point, yeah, then I went to the point where I'm like, okay, I guess anxiety is just part of my identity. I'm just an anxious person. You know how someone is a risk taker? I'm the
Mm-hmm.
opposite. I'm just always going to be anxious. And when I then saw my first hypnotherapy, which was really interesting, I overcome panic attacks, yeah, but I was still worrying a lot. Like I was much better, but I still was worrying a lot. I was still overthinking a lot. And then I hit a spot where I thought, okay, well, this is the best I can get to. Because remember, anxiety is part of my identity. So not having daily panic attacks is huge for me. Like, don't think you're going to be able to get any better until someone explained to me, who was then my next hypnotherapist, who said to me, listen, anxiety is a habitual behavior. It's not your identity. It's something you do. It just feels like that because, and that's what most of those habitual behaviors feel like. It feels like to people it's their identity. And when something is your identity, it feels like, well, how am I able to change it? But when they understand it's just something they've always done, a
Yeah.
behavior,
Mhm.
that's a big, and that's often a breakthrough for them to see it from a different point of view.
And people tend to act out parts a lot because I remember when I met you before you started talking at conferences and all that sort of stuff, I always wanted to talk to you so bad, but you were always busy, you know? So I'd
Mm,
come into the scene and you'd be like, oh, blah, 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 and then scurry off. And I'd be like, she's always busy. And I wonder now if
mm.
that was like a coping mechanism that you had because I have this strong energy and this masculine personality. And then you were probably going through this anxiety stuff and trying to manage that and just went, whoa, I can't cope with this person.
Yeah, and you know what? Social settings back then when you first met me was
Mm,
still a very foreign, scary place for me to be in because up until, I started working as a hypnotherapist and working through my issues, I would be the person that would be never could walk into a room and say hello to people. I would
mm,
always be the person that would be in the background, blending in, don't stand out, don't say anything, don't talk to anyone. That was my childhood. That was my teenage years. That was up until, yeah, probably about what, 5, 6, 7 years ago. It was a
Yeah, it's
real
been a
challenge for
while.
me. So going through those conferences and actually presenting was one of the things that I wanted to overcome. The fear of public speaking and also the socializing aspect.
Yes, yes, yes. Good point. Because socializing can be exhausting for many of us, especially if we've already got jobs that we hate, a partner that could be a bit testing, lifestyles that are inflicting. So then we've got to be social, and all we want to do is scream because literally we've had enough and we're not having any fun anymore. And these social scenes are supposed to be fun, right?
That's it. And when you then feel insecure about yourself,
Hmm.
and that just then adds like, oh God.
Absolutely love it. So, Connie, can we have a bit of a play with your imagination? Is that okay?
For sure.
Fantastic. So let's imagine you're on a journey across magical lands that have been destroyed by war. It is your quest to travel to these lands and help the communities rebuild. What is the first building that you rebuild to help people and why?
I think the first thing I would help them rebuild is probably like a garden and plant some fruits and veggies to really
Yeah,
start getting that up. Plant the seeds. And I like that. I use it in hypnosis a lot. Plant the
yeah.
seeds. Because when you plant the seeds and then water them, how I do with my clients, then they can start growing and blossom.
Love that. Love that. What kind of seeds are we going to plant?
Definitely. we got some food and vegetable seeds, but then
Hmm.
maybe also some seeds of love, some seeds of kindness, some
Yes.
seeds of support, maybe even self-belief because everything has been destroyed. Maybe they're struggling with a bit of self-belief.
Hmm.
So plant those seeds about believing in themselves that they can rebuild, that they can,
Yeah.
rebuild whatever that is. And you know what? Maybe even planting the seed, it's the opportunity to just create something better and newer now.
Yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
as an
Absolutely.
opportunity almost, not as a, oh my God, like now it's the opportunity that we can improve on maybe what we would do differently now.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And that's where it all comes from, doesn't it? We only get improvement by doing something better than we used to do.
100%, 100%. And that's what I do with my clients because a lot of the clients, when they have, let's say, overcome trauma, they're kind of in a bit of a, well, who am I now? Or
Hmm.
I was that like, someone asked me back then, the person that I worked with said, okay, well, what are you going to do? What's going to be different when you're not anxious anymore?
Hmm.
And you know what I thought to myself? What am I gonna do with all my time? Like that scared me a bit
Yes.
because I spent so much time worrying and being anxious that I almost didn't know what would I be doing if I didn't do that anymore. And that can be a scary place also for people that overcome trauma, that they're suddenly, well, who am I now? Who am I now that I'm not sitting at home anxious, no confidence, I don't know, maybe depressed or whatever. Who am I now? And I love that part as well, working with the client and really helping them not find their identity, but kind of, or create a better version of themselves, maybe, if you want
Yeah,
to call it that,
yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So with your book, Shine Through Trauma,
which
like
I'll have
what
here.
oh, awesome. So with your book, like I've read it and I've looked at your images and things like that, and I think to myself, wow, how much confidence did that take? How did you navigate writing that book? Because you're literally tapping into those trauma memories and then unearthing them to put them on paper. How did you cope with navigating that field? Because that's a big effort.
Well, look, there was a lot of moments of, again, self-doubt, who am I to write a book? Who am I to write a book in something that's not even my first language?
I'm glad that you did
Um,
write a book.
yeah, me too. And for me, it was all about, I think I'm at the point where I have really healed from what I've experienced in that sense that I can really now, I actually have fun analyzing it now. So when I get triggered like that, it almost gets to the point where I'm like, oh, why is that sneaking in?
Mhm,
Whilst before it would put me back into the, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, I'm not good enough, all of that stuff.
mhm.
So I felt like the book was almost like the final thing for me to be like, okay, well, I'm really able to release it. And yes, it is my story and it is what has happened, but it also made me do this work now. So
I
I can
love it.
100% wholeheartedly say that I would not be doing this work if I didn't experience what I experienced. So that I think was almost like putting this on paper now. This is it, seal the
Like
stamp,
kind of like closing the book as well. This is the last chapter. Now I'm on to other stuff.
Yes, yes.
Awesome. Oh, well, I don't know what your second book's going to be, but sign me up because I am totally there. So thank you so much for talking to me here today. And everybody, please grab your tickets to Australian Hypnosis Conference. Meet Connie in person. She loves to sign books and have you networking and, tell us, she loves to tell her story and help you out. So please sign up and meet Connie there at the event. So we'll see everybody there. Bye bye.
Bye.